Now in my last video I brought you a Diablo 4 build that I thought was absolutely amazing for the dual wield barbarian and was probably the best you could possibly make.
Right? Wrong.
However, things always change and you're finding new gear, updating your build, testing new things, and now I've come to the conclusion that this new tweaked version is absolutely insane. So it's very similar to the last one. If you were following that guide, you can make this really easy. However, I've tweaked a few things in order to make it even more powerful so you can delve further into the pits and destroy those bosses even better. I've managed to do all of the content in the game with this, including all the tormented bosses, Uber Lilith, and so far I've made it all the way to pit 127, so trust me, this thing is an absolute powerhouse. If you want to just swing away with your barbarian and have a lot of fun whilst you do it, then this is going to be the guide for you. Now the footage of Duriel just here in the background, I'm also in a party with another friend who's not actually attacking it because I wanted to see how much damage this thing could do if it had more health, and it still dispatches him very easily, even though I played awfully and managed to jump into a few stuns. Now the first thing I'm going to get out of the way is going to be the rotation, because whether or not you enjoy a build is largely going to come down to your rotation and such. With this one, it's all about using your bash and bash cleave when you upgrade it to do massive amounts of damage. You could just basic attack and take out pretty much everything in the game apart from some of the tougher content, but when you do want to go a little bit further, what you got to do, make sure you've got your shouts up, make sure you've got your, and then the rotation is going to be attack for a few seconds in order to build some stacks up, then either go into your bash if you want to just dispatch most enemies, or for a full rotation, hit them with your steel grasp, then hit them with your rupture, and then go into your bash, in order to take advantage of extra damage from your pain gorges and extra speed from your rupture. Now I'm going to chuck up my overall stats here. As you can see, we've got a nice amount of attack power. Armour, we're well overcapped because I did actually hit a couple of upgrades on that, which you definitely don't need. And then life, I would say my life is a little bit on the lowish side, but I'm still managing to push through some of those really high-end kind of pit tiers with this. And currently I'm sitting at 127, which I probably could get further if I completely upgraded all of my gear or managed to get some nicer gear with some better greater affixes. Now for your helmet, the first one you're going to want to put on is going to be Harlequin's Crest. Remember, this season you can actually get a guaranteed Uber. I will chuck that top right in case anyone doesn't know how to do it, and even though it is a bit of grinding, it's well worth having this in almost every build. With this, it's obviously going to come with all stats, which is quite nice, but the main thing you're going to be after with this is going to be its cooldown reduction. This is our main source of cooldown reduction, so you're going to want to make sure this hits quite high. With your masterwork in, try to get this at least 2 times I'd say, because that's just going to make your life a whole bunch easier. Also, the fact that it comes with +4 to all of your skills and 20% damage reduction in itself makes this the absolute ideal slot for enhancing your damage and giving you a lot of mitigation at the same time. For your chest, and we're going to be using the Aspect of Might on this, just a great, absolutely amazing one to use in any bash build. You're constantly using your basic, so you've constantly got 20% damage mitigation. The affix you're going to want on this is going to be maximum life. If you can, try to hit this as your greater affix, because you aren't quite as heavy with your life as in some of my previous builds, but you do manage to have a lot of damage reduction, so it usually works out pretty well. Make sure you roll armor on this, or at least another piece of your gear if you haven't gotten this piece, as you're going to need one to hit your armor cap. Then I found having Challenging Shout is absolutely amazing, it gives you even more damage reduction, and for your tempering, try to get Challenging Shout cooldown and plus ranks to concussion. Over to the gloves, and these are absolutely integral for this build, and they're going to be the Pain Gorgeous Gauntlets. Absolutely amazing for any basics build. These are a complete monster, and they're going to give you 23 tool stats, they're going to give you a nice bit of attack speed, and they're going to give you some critical chance. Really try to get some kind of, if you've got a greater affix on one of those critical chance or attack speed, it'd be absolutely amazing, but even if you don't, try and hit some upgrades on it. Missing that, basic attack is also great to upgrade as well at the blacksmith, but try not to get those all stats as they're not going to be as good overall. The great thing about this, when you do launch any of your other skills and then go into a basic attack, you're going to do a massive amount of extra damage for the next 3 seconds. This I've seen go really high, but it does seem to be a little bit hit and miss in my books, so I'm still working around the exact mechanics of this, but it's still probably the best thing to have on pretty much any basic build. However, this doesn't actually work in conjunction with critical damage from what I've been told, so we've tried to go a little bit into vulnerable and crit damage in order to take advantage of both areas. For the pants, and these are another thing that you're going to have 100% because they're just absolutely amazing, and we've gone with the Iron Warrior aspect. This is really going to help you because your iron skin is now going to make you unstoppable, and you're going to have some really high damage reduction with it as well, up to 35%. On this pants, you're going to want strength, you're going to want resistance to all elements, which you may well want to hit at least once with your upgrade depending on how it rolls. If not, try and make it as high a roll as possible. but the main thing you're going to be after is going to be the next one, which is going to be your I've got basic skills. You're going to want it to bash, because you'll be able to get a little bit more ranks to that than the basic skills one. If you can manage to get a greater affix on bash, that is going to be ridiculously powerful, and then you're going to want to hit that with pretty much as much upgrades as possible. Other than that, imposing presence and steel grasp work great, as steel grasp gives you a little bit of stun before you go into your rupture, and imposing presence is always going to be welcome because it gives you a nice amount of your health. As you can see, I've managed to put a few strength into this build, so I've put strength in here instead, but if you want to slot those gems out and put it into your health in order to get a bit more health back yourself, you can quite easily do that. For our two-hander, we're going to be using Aspect to the Moonrise. This is just absolutely fantastic. It's going to give you additional speed, it's going to give you additional damage. It's pretty much everything you want, especially in this basic build. Other than that, you're going to want strength, you're going to want maximum life, and you're going to want vulnerable damage. I probably got a 1 in 100,000 or something ridiculous drop for this. It was 3 greater affixes, absolutely perfect. Then I almost bricked it at the blacksmith and had to go with some really low rolls with the upgrades on that. So it is what it is. It's still a really nice piece of gear, and this is probably what you'd be aiming for if you wanted a completely ridiculously overpowered build. Although it is the only really strong piece of gear I've got, and most of mine are just 1 stars. For your tempering, you're going to want damage to close enemies and bash cleaves for a certain amount of damage. You want the bash cleave to hit as high as possible, and you want bash cleave on pretty much every single piece of gear that you can put it on, so all 4 of your weapons. For your next weapon, nice and simple, you need to be using a one-handed mace in order to use bash via dual wield, and for this one we've gone with the Aspect of the Elements. This is going to give you a massive 30% multiplicative damage, 7 seconds on, 7 seconds off, and it's just great for easy to use extra damage whenever it procs. Also with this, you're going to want to have strength, you're going to want to have damage, and you're going to want to have vulnerable damage. For your tempering, go for damage to close, and then you're going to want bash cleaves for as much damage as you can possibly get, and try to hit this with the upgrades as well. Now for the next one, and we've gone with an axe for this, and I'll show you why later, this one is rolling with the Aspect of the Inner Calm. Just a really nice easy aspect to use. Whenever you're standing still, you're going to get triple damage, so it's going to give you 30% rather than 10% multiplicative, so whenever you're on those bosses and you can stand still for a few seconds, do it in order to reap the benefits. Again, the stats you're going to want on it is going to be strength, damage, and with this one I found, let me know in the comments because I could well be wrong about this, putting on critical strike damage also worked absolutely fantastic. If however you want to try it with vulnerable to see if that works out a little bit better, then you may well want to give that one a try. Then you're going to want to make sure that you get damage to close enemies again, and bash once again that you're going to try and hit as many times as possible. Now for our amulet, you're going to want to make sure that you've got the Aspect of Adaptability. This one is absolutely amazing on an amulet because you're constantly over that 50% resource threshold. It means your skills do a really nice additional bit of damage. Then stats you're going to want on it is going to be strength. I have gone with damage, which has actually worked out really well, a lot better than I thought it would. Tried to get this as high as possible, but I haven't had a chance yet. You may want to change this to counter offensive if you can get hold of it, as that's going to be multiplicative damage instead. But either or works absolutely ideal for boosting your damage. Then you're going to want critical strike chance that you're going to want very high if possible, as well as at blacksmith trying to roll damage to close enemies and imposing presence. Try to get 3 on this if possible, as it's really going to help out your survivability by giving you a bit of additional health. For our first ring, and we've got Edge Masters, again 20%, nice little increase to our damage, don't have to think about anything, don't have to worry, it's just there constant. And for your stats on this, you're going to want strength, you're going to want critical strike chance, and you're going to want vulnerable damage. If you can, try to also make sure that you temper in Warcry cooldown reduction, as well as damage whilst berserking in order to reap a bit of benefits from our Paragon Board later. For our last ring, we've gone with Bold Chieftains. This is just always good in order to get your cooldowns better, so always try to do it whenever you're in amongst a group of ads, rather than when you're trying to run between them. For your affix, make sure you get strength, then you're going to want attack speed in order to kind of make sure you're hitting as fast as possible. And then for the third one, and lucky hit is absolutely amazing I found with this, as it's going to mean you've constantly got vulnerable up, even if your steel chains are down for a second, or you're in amongst maybe a tough boss fight. After that, another essential one is Steel Grasp cooldown, as I found it without this I was actually having times when I couldn't use it. And then finally, damage to close enemies. For our last piece of gear, we're going to be using the Greatsword. This is going to give you a nice bit of crit damage straight off the bat. Then we're going to be going with Rapid Aspect in order to maximise our attack speed. Faster we are, the more we dwindle down the boss's health quick. And the affix you'll want on this will be Strength, Maximum Life, because without it we are kind of lacking, Vulnerable Damage, and then Temper on damage while berserking, and of course again your Bash Cleave. Now for our weapon expertise, we're going to keep this nice and simple. Stick with your two-handed axe. This one is absolutely amazing. We're kind of specking into vulnerable as much as possible anyway, so you may as well get the best out of it, and two-handed axe is always a great go-to in pretty much any barbarian build. So jumping over to our skill tree, and I'll try and hit on this briefly. I'm sure I've taken enough of your time. Remember, if you need to see it more in depth, then you're going to want to go over to the planner that's going to be in the description. But you're going to want to chuck as much as is very possible into your bash. I've managed to get 15, I think most is probably around about 17, and then up from there you're going to pick up the enhanced bash, giving you a little bit of extra rate to get fortifier. Down from here you're going to completely skip all that is the core skills because you don't need that in the slightest. But for your defensive, we've got quite a lot going on. You're going to want to put quite a bit into imposing presence, so we've got 3 and the rest is from our items. And again, martial vigour is going to help us get a bit of damage reduction. Down from here you want 1 in your iron skin, 1 in your enhanced, and then 1 over into your tactical, allowing you to get a massive amount of health back very easily. Over again, and you're going to want 1 into your outburst, and then 1 into your tough as nails, allowing us to get the most out of bleed, which we're going to need for our Paragon Board later. Now again, challenging shout, absolutely amazing, really helps us with our damage reduction, and I've only got 1 in this, but we've got 10 overall from all of the gear we've got going on. Then again, you want enhanced because this is going to give you even more life, and then you're going to make your way over to the brawling skills where you're definitely going to want to pick up swiftness. Put 3 in this. If you notice with my boots I only put on 1 tempering for your speed, so you will be lacking a little bit of it, but I found it easily enough. Up again, and you're going to want Warcry. Try to put as much in this as you possibly can. We've got 10, which is quite nice, but 9 of those are from our items. If you wanted to tweak it a little bit, put a bit more in because you feel you were lacking in damage, then I'm sure you could quite easily if you changed a few things around. Over again, we're going to get enhanced Warcry and then power Warcry in order to give us a bit more multiplicative damage whenever we're in amongst the masses. Down once more, and we're going to get booming voice, as this is just going to help our durations, all of our shouts. 2 to raid leader in order to get a nice bit of health regen, and then 3 to guttural yell. Like I said, if you want to change a few of these out, put it into Warcry in order to give yourself a bit more damage, you can quite easily do that. Just over this way we've got aggressive resistance, put 3 in that for some easy damage reduction. And then making your way over to the weapon mastery skills, you're going to want 3 in pit fighter, and then I've only got 2 in this, which is slay and strike. I really wish I could pick up 3, so if you wanted to, you might want to change it and put 1 in from somewhere else, but I found this to work best overall. Other than that, you're going to need 1 in rupture, 1 in enhanced, and then finally 1 in warrior's rupture. Rupture does a nice bit of AoE damage, it really does, because of how much crit we've got going on, and warrior's rupture means we're going to get a nice bit of attack speed whenever we use it for those single targets as well. Over to steel grasp, put 1 in that, 1 in your enhanced, and then 1 over to your fighter steel grasp in order to give yourself vulnerable and berserk very often. Over to your thick skin, we're going to have 1 in this, and then 3 in counter offensive, giving us a nice bit of multiplicative damage. Then from here over to our ultimate bit, we've got 3 just up this way into the duelist, and then 3 in wallop. Other than that, we've got 3 from our concussion, and this is just from our gear pieces, and it actually works out really well. Nice bit of additional damage and a nice bit of a chance to stun enemies. Finally, for your capstone, make sure you pick up this one, which is going to be unconstrained, as you're going to be berserking constantly, so you may as well pick up the extra benefit to it. Now lastly, for our Paragon Board, you're probably going to notice the biggest change up to some of my other builds is that we're kind of leaving behind a couple of the nodes with health in order to gain a lot more into our damage later on. If you want to change this a little bit in your playstyle, go for it, but I found this to be the best overall style. So for the first one, we're going to make our way up, pick up the rare node just here in order to get some more health and some damage. Then obviously bop around, exactly the same again, we're going to need to pick this up and then make our way up to the first cliff, where we're going to slot in exploit. This is going to be ideal, we're using a lot of vulnerable in this build, and this makes us even better able to keep it applied, as well as we've got the affix on our ring. Then you're going to make your way up this left hand side, and onto the next board. I'm going to keep it here just for a few seconds, just in case you need to jot down exactly where they're placed. So, up to this next board, and this one's going to be looking exactly like this. The board we're going to is going to be the Blood Rage board, and this is absolutely essential. It's a big multiplicative damage, and we're going to see this up very often because of how much berserking we're doing and how much we've got in our build. Making our way over to the cliff, and we're going to be slotting in the cleaver. This is going to give you a nice bit of extra damage because we're using an axe, and as well as that we've got our 12% multiplicative. Grab the nodes of these, they're going to be your rare, that's going to give you a nice bit of damage and a nice bit of defense just over this way. Then you're going to make your way just down to the bottom here and pick up your other rare node in order to get some more maximum health. Make your way out to the right hand side and we're going over to this board, which is going to be the board of the Warbringer. We're not going to be picking up this legendary node however, and if you want to know exactly how it's placed, all of the nodes go just like this. Again, the glyph we're going to be placing into this one is going to be this one right here, and it's going to be ambidextrous. Another bit of multiplicative damage, as well as giving you the ability to get a few more resisting build and a nice bit of physical damage. Grab up some of the surrounding nodes, so we've gone down to the rare one just here in order to get some more resist, and over to the left hand side is going to give us some more damage. And then make your way out of this board and head down. For this board we're going to be bopping all the way over to Carnage, as this gives us a massive increase to our speed when we're attacking, and then you're going to head round, pick up the rare nodes in order to gain all of the damage and a nice bit of defensiveness as well. For this one you're going to want to slot in this right here, which is going to be your territorial. Absolutely amazing in any barbarian build, as you're always up close and personal, and getting the extra damage and damage reduction is well worth having. The board in itself is going to look just like this. Now making your way round back to where you originally were, so we're back up to the Blood Rage board, where this time going to make our way at the left hand side, and this board is going to be this one, the Bone Breaker. You're going to want to bop just down here and pick up all of the health nodes, as this one pretty much gives you all of the most health you can pick up. Then make your way back up and you're going to slot in just in this glyph socket just here, you're going to put in Wrath, which is going to give you a massive amount of extra damage to your crit. Unfortunately the second additional bonus doesn't really help us much, but the extra crit damage is well worth having. While you're here, make sure you grab yourself some extra damage reduction while healthy, and then just make your way out. The board in itself will look just like this. For our next one, we're going to jump all the way up to this board, which is going to be the Decimator. More multiplicative damage, and even better if you're able to overpower, you get another 10% as well. But in order to do this, we're going to pop all the way up, grab ourselves some extra health, grab ourselves some damage, make our way up to this one, and make our way over to the left as well, which gives us our glyph socket where we're going to place in higher. We're berserking constantly, pick this up, it's well worth having, exactly the same as territorial, extra damage reduction. Pick up the rare node either side of it while you're here, and then make your way all the way up, pick up the other rare node in order to give yourself some more health. The board itself is going to be just like this. Finally, making your way out to the very last board, you're going to want to pick up this right here for a nice bit of extra crit strike damage. Make your way down over to this rare node, which is going to be heavy blows, again extra crit strike damage, and this was the board that I kind of mucked around and tweaked with most, and doing it like this really changed my build up and made me so much more powerful. Then you're going to bop around, pick up your glyph socket, which you're going to put in Blood Feeder, or if you wanted to change this, try something else, you very well could do. So for example, if you were worried about dying, you could pick up something like the one where you're fortified, you get 10% damage mitigation, or something else to your liking. I found this one best overall though. Then finally, make your way around and pick up the node just over this way, which is going to crash and give you near enough another 5% damage reduction from close. Right, hopefully that's helped a few of you guys and girls out. I've really enjoyed this build. I've tweaked it pretty much to the best I can now, and it's absolutely flying through everything that I need to do it to. But as always, for all things gaming, take care. I'll see you on the next day.